Okay, good morning. Welcome to the May 16th Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. And we have a great audience today. And tonight I'd like to have Rabbi Ephraim Silverman from the Shabbat of East Cobb. Shabbat of Cobb County, lead us in opening prayer. And then I have, there you are, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we could all stand, please.
Good morning. Being a commissioner, being a chairman, it's a role of leadership. And each of us in life plays a role of leadership, whether in a family setting, a business setting, community setting. And there's no better place to look for lessons on leadership than the Bible. And no better person to learn leadership from than Moses. And it's interesting, many people don't realize that Moses was actually 80 years old when he led the Jews out of Egypt. But yet, about his first 80 years, we read very few stories, just a few brief sketches. But those brief sketches have a consistent message. The Bible picks those specific stories because it tells us what leadership is about. Each of those stories is a story, whether it's Moses at watching an Egyptian smite a Jew and saving the Jew from the hands of an Egyptian, saving the daughters of Jethro, or saving a little sheep that's wandered off. It's one theme, and the theme is that leadership is not necessarily about strength. It's not necessarily about courage. Real leadership is about the care and concern we have for every single individual, sincere concern and compassion for every single individual. So may God give us strength, may He give us the wisdom and the understanding, and really the compassion and empathy for every single human being, for every single person that we're here to lead. And in this way, we can bring the blessings of God and the grace of God to those that we are leading, and we can usher in a better time for our community, a better time and a better place for our community, and through that, for the entire world. Amen.
Amen.
Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank the Men of Faith this morning for leading us in our opening ceremony, opening program this morning. And by the time we're done with today's hearing, we may all be 80 years old. So with that, I will turn it over to you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, the applicant is asked to stand to signify that they are here so they can be counted. Then we're going to call for any opposition to be counted also, and that count will be put into the record of this hearing. The applicant and opposition will both be sworn in at the same time. The applicant will testify first, and then the opposition, if any, will testify second. It's important to note that each side gets 10 minutes to state their case concerns. There's not a rebuttal process, and there's not a process to reserve your time. So convey all your information to the Board of Commissioners within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if more than one person wishes to speak on an issue, you might want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side gets 10 minutes, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after both sides have had their 10-minute presentation period, the board will start to discuss the case at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more people to come back up to the front for questions or comments. After that, the board will make a decision to either hold, continue, deny, or approve the case at hand. On today's printed agenda, there are two cases that have been withdrawn and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z101 of 2016, Providence Homes LLC. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Additionally, rezoning case Z113 of 2016, Habitat for Humanity of Northwest Metro Atlanta Incorporated. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been continued or held and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z18 of 2016, Popeland Enterprises Incorporated. That case was continued by the staff until the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z18 of 2016 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z35 of 2016, Adventure Living. This case was continued by the Board of Commissioners until the lawsuit settled. It's important to note that this item is on today's other business agenda item as number 15 to settle the lawsuit. Rezoning case Z9 of 2017, Parent Homes. This case was continued by the staff until the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z9 of 2017 will not be heard today. Z12 of 2017, SSP Blue Ridge LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z12 of 2017 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z15 of 2017, Curley Family Homes LLC. That case was continued by the staff, or excuse me, that case was held by the Planning Commission until the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z15 of 2017 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z19 of 2017. This case was continued from the Planning Commission zoning hearing until the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z19 of 2017 will not be heard today. Other business, item number 16 of 2017, Lidl U.S. Operations LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the June 20th, 2017 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business 16 will not be heard today. Mr. Chairman of the Board, there is one request to continue one case that's on your continued agenda to be heard today. That's rezoning case Z111 of 2016, RSDC1 LLC. I believe the applicant needs a little bit more time to work with the opposition, Mr. Chairman, and the district commissioner is aware of this.
Okay. So do we need a motion to continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we talked to the applicant yesterday, and there's more time needs to be to go over this with the applicant and also the residents in the area. So make a motion to continue Z111 until our June zoning hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please put it on silent mode. The ringing does interfere with the broadcast and presentations. So if you have a cell phone, please put it on silent mode. Any person who wishes to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this requirements on the table in the back of the room. And lastly, I would like to remind the people in today's audience, the zoning attorneys, the opposition, or anyone interested in the case, that information is due to the Board of Commissioners the Wednesday prior to this hearing. So anything submitted after last Wednesday will be up to the Board of Commissioners' discretion whether or not they want to consider it. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
Okay. So I move that we approve the consent agenda as read and state. I thought we did.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already read it in.
No, sir.
Well, then get going.
Yes, sir. Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda for May 16, 2017. Rezoning case Z112 of 2016, Duncan Land Investments LLC. Request rezoning from R20 to R15 for the purpose of a residential subdivision and land lot 308 of the 16th District. The property is located on the western side of Blackwell Road at Blackwell Place and on the southern side of Northwoods Drive. Planning Commission recommends approval to the R15 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on April 6, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Richard Duncan dated April 21st, 2017. Variance listed in the zoning comments and recommendations. District Commissioner to approve the final elevations of the houses. Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. And Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezoning case Z112. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z14 of 2017, Lloyd Development Services. Request rezoning from R20 to R15 OSC for the purpose of a single-family residential subdivision in land lot 394 of the 17th District. The property is located on the northern terminus of Pebblebrook Lane, on the northwest side of Pebblebrook Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the R15 OSC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan dated March 27, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Letters of agreeable stipulations from Mr. Garvis L. Sams Jr. dated April 20th, 2017, April 21st, 2017, and May 1st, 2017, with the following changes to the April 20, 2017 letter. and the May 1st, 2017 letter. Item number 15D, strike in its entirety and replace with LDS agrees to verify that minimum intersection sight distance is available at Pebblebrook Road and Pebblebrook Lane. And if not, then implement remedial measures subject to Cobb DOT approval to achieve the minimum requirement of 335 feet. District Commissioner approved the final house architecture. Planning Division comments and recommendations, Fire Department comments and recommendations, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations, and Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z14? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
In the stip letter provided by the attorney on May 1st, there was a stipulation that refers to a peer review of a storm management report that the surrounding subdivisions would like to have completed, and I don't know if that was incorporated in.
But was it in one of Garvis's letters?
Yes, it was in the letter dated May 1st.
And that's part of the minute, so that would be.
It's, okay, I just wanted to ensure. Thank you.
Okay, rezoning case Z18, Lonnie D. Cox, request a rezoning from GC to NRC for the purpose of automotive repair in land lot 60 of the 16th district. The property is located on the west side of Canton Road, north of Jamerson Road. Staff recommends approval to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on February 13th, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. A variance as listed in zoning division comments and recommendations. No outdoor storage or displays of merchandise, adherence to the Canton Road design guidelines, all repair work to be done inside the building, fire department comments and recommendations, water and sewer division comments and recommendations, stormwater management division comments and recommendations, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations, and the owner developer to enter into a development agreement pursuant to OCGA 367113 for dedication of system improvements to mitigate traffic concerns. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z18? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z20, Teaching Little Children Incorporated. Request rezoning from GC to NRC for the purpose of neighborhood retail uses in land lot 85 of the 16th district. The property is located on the south side of Ecton Drive, west of Canton Road. Staff recommends approval to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Revised site plan received by the zoning division on March 6, 2017, and the attached traffic circulation and parking plan received April 5, 2017, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. James Bally dated April 26, 2017. Variances in the zoning division comments and recommendations, fire department comments and recommendations, stormwater management division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z20? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 4, Sandy Clove, request a land use permit renewal for the purpose of an artist studio in land lot 336 of the 20th district. The property is located on the west side of Trail Road, west of Midway Road. Staff recommends approval for 24 months, subject to no signs, no on-street parking, no outdoor storage, and 2 seasonal employees. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 4? Let the record show there's no one opposed. LUP 6, Still Family Farm LLC, request a land use permit renewal for the purpose of agritourism and a corn maze in land lot 439 of the 19th district. The property is located on the north side of Malcolm Road, west of Florence Road. Staff recommends approval for 24 months, subject to parking plan received by the zoning division on March 2nd, 2017. Statement of proposed elements received by the zoning division on March 2nd, 2017. For this applicant only, for the months of September, October, and November only. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 6? Let the record show there's no one opposed. LUP 8, Jessica Joyner, requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of an in-home salon in land lot 270 of the 20th district. The property is located on the northwest corner of Evian Drive and Hadaway Road. Staff recommends approval for 24 months. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 8? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into other business cases on the consent agenda. Other business, item number 17 is to consider a stipulation amendment for Adventure Living regarding rezoning case Z51 of 2016. The property is located on the north side of Macklin Road, east of McMurray Drive, in land lot 497 of the 19th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to Cobb DOT comments, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. Is the applicant present? The director of the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business, item number 17? The record shows no one opposed. And lastly, other business, item number 18 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Mount Bethel Christian Academy Incorporated regarding SLUP 11 of 2013. The property is located on the north side of Post Oak Street Road, west of Holly Springs Road, in land lots 599, 600, 625, and 626 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to temporary classrooms to be removed by June 1st, 2020. Stormwater management comments and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business, item number 18? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman of the board.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Second.
Any
I just have
discussion?
one comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I need to recuse myself from other business number 18 since my wife works there.
Okay. So how does this work? We'll do a vote, and he's
Whatever you can do.
recusing himself from OB 18.
Right, but I'll be
And
voting for
that'll
all
be
the
stated
rest.
in the record.
Right.
Okay? Any other further questions or discussions? Then I call the question. And it passes 5-0. I'm sorry.
Can I have the floor?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask Parks, Huff, and Lawton Jordan to come up, please? We have Z35, other business item 15, I believe.
Yes.
And I think we have a request from you, Mr. Jordan.
Yes, ma'am. I represent Lynn Hicks, who's the adjacent property owner. We've been working with Parks closely. We're very close to reaching an agreement, but we're not quite there yet, so we'd like to request a continuance at this point.
Okay, yes, we have had several meetings and discussions on this, and I know y'all have been working diligently as well as I have with the neighbors, and I know a few of the neighbors are out of town or out of the country, and I think it would be in the best interest if we do hold this until the June 20th meeting and have another meeting with the adjacent and adjoining neighborhood to make sure everybody's in agreement before we move forward. So I would make a motion that we hold this to the June 20th zoning.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? We have a second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
And thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving into the regular case agenda. There's only case Z21, CII Holdings LLC request rezoning from R20 to LI for the purpose of office warehouse and land lot 794 of the 16th District. The property is located on the southeasterly side of White Circle, east of New Day Church Road. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z21? Two. Okay. And there are two people here opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
You're gonna put up yours first. Then I'll do that. Yeah, there we go. I like that. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kevin Moore. I'm here on behalf of the property owner, CII Holdings, and the applicant, CII Holdings, in this rezoning application. This property is located on White Circle, just off of Cobb Parkway. The property is 4.3 acres. And to give you a little bit of context in terms of where it is located and the application itself, currently the application that was submitted was to rezone this property from its existing category of R20 to light industrial. However, after the Planning Commission hearing and after meetings and discussion with adjoining, not really adjoining, but area homeowner association with Hamilton Grove and other interested area residents, as well as talking with staff and speaking with staff, we're requesting this category, or the requested category, be deleted to office services instead of light industrial. Office services, or OS, is a category that's a step less in intensity than light industrial. The general description that I use, kind of the rule of thumb for office services, is it takes kind of some of the more obnoxious uses of LI out, and instead for office services. And so we're requesting that this be deleted, or that the commissioners consider the category of office services for this location. I'll go through that with you and why we think that's appropriate. First, on the GIS that's on your screens now, you can see the property in the center there on White Circle. And I show this to you so that you can gain a real sense of the surrounding area and what's there, and we'll get a little bit more specific as well. But you'll see on the north side, again, it's a large tract that's zoned R20, and that's not a subdivision. That's a rather gigantic Georgia Power substation that's been there for a very long time. So in reality, that use, which is a major substation for Georgia Power, is more akin to a light industrial use in terms of its impact on this section or this side of White Circle Road than R20. Obviously, Georgia Power doesn't need the zoning, so it has maintained its R20 zoning all along. And in fact, the property we're talking about was also owned by Georgia Power, which is why it's zoned R20. You'll also see as you continue to the west on White Circle as it connects to Cobb Parkway, there at the bottom left of your screen, what you see is general commercial, tourist services, office services, again, and there's the OS. And in particular, around the subject property adjacent to it is office institutional for access, light industrial again to the rear, and then you have City of Marietta property. And then finally, you have the subdivision to the south, Hamilton Grove, that is actual access is on White Circle, but on the other side of the circle for White Circle. And that gives you a sense of the position of this property, and that is heavily impacted by surrounding and adjacent light industrial uses that are approved, as well as the Georgia Power substation, which in matter of fact is a light industrial type of use. And I want to get specific with it as well to give you a little more information as it relates to the City of Marietta's property as well. And what I'm going to do is just use your more specific zoning map here, and you'll see the subject property highlighted and hashed, the 4.3 acres. You see the R20, which is the substation. Then you see that adjoining it is an existing light industrial use here to the rear. This is an existing light industrial property that's under development right now for light industrial. You'll also see this property here. This is the City of Marietta, and I'm just going to write in here because I think it's very important. This is an approved light industrial use that will be developed at some point in the very near future, already approved and permitted by the City of Marietta for light industrial use, and it will be a large light industrial use building with distribution. And you can see then the very rear of the Hamilton Grove. And I also want to put over here for the City of Marietta, this is light industrial, and this is light industrial, so that you can see this property is encapsulated by light industrial development. Now, Switching to the site plan itself, I'm just going to stay here. The site plan itself, this was the site plan we submitted, and you can see that what's being proposed here were two 18,000 square foot buildings, which are smaller buildings than the light industrial type of use that was proposed. But now we are proposing this to be office services. This type of layout also works for office services, though the buildings will just cannot be used for the type of light industrial uses that would otherwise be available. These have to be used as what it says. They're more office than industrial, and that's what this becomes. And part of that reasoning is you've seen the light industrial uses that are existing and that are being under development now that are adjacent to this property. One of the things is that we, from a public comment standpoint and addressing those comments, is to pull back on some of that light industrial type of uses and pull that back. And office services does that in that vein, and that's why we've agreed to do that and provide for a office services development instead of a light industrial development. It's also important to note, as you saw in the earlier aerial, this section of White Circle has direct, easy access to Cobb Parkway, and there's a traffic light there. In addition, one of the stipulations that we will be agreeing, or we are agreeable to, is that we will direct any and all truck traffic and delivery and truck traffic to this location, from and to this location, out White Circle on the northern end. It'll be limited to the northern end of White Circle to the traffic light to the west here, as opposed to circling back around White Circle to where it's more residential and direct truck traffic through signage and through directions that is to be directed towards Cobb Parkway, which is another concern that we had heard, and we believe we can maintain that, and not only with our instructions and signage, but also just ease of access. They're going to want to go that way anyway and want to come from that way because it's the most direct access. In addition, what we will be doing is eliminating this access on the side of White Circle here so that access is totally limited to the frontage along White Circle. And again, I want to point out that this proposed plan for office services and in fact for light industrial, neither are requesting any variances from those categories. And as a result of the discussions, I see that Ms. Carol Brown as well as Mr. Dan Fields are here that we have had these discussions with. We believe that as a request to delete this application to office services with certain stipulations would be supported, and I think that's one of the reasons I want to make sure that's what I'm going to say and present to you today. And I want to review those stipulations with you. In our letter that was dated April 27th, the stipulations that are in this letter are equally applicable to to office services, even though it was requesting OS. But additionally, there was an email from Ms. Carol Brown that was sent on May 12th. It was also forwarded to each of you as an email to you setting forth her involvement in this application and specifically with additional stipulations that work really in concert with and additionally to the stipulations that are contained in our letter as it relates to landscaping, maximum impervious surface, fencing, limitation on outdoor storage, and limitation on hours, which are consistent with our letter. And we are agreeable to those additional stipulations. We can happy to provide this letter to your clerk so that it can be included if the board is inclined to include those additional stipulations, because we have agreed to those, and I have a copy of this for the clerk, but this was just done on Friday of this past week. So it would be those stipulations, and in addition, the stipulations as the stipulation regarding directing truck traffic, which would be delimited to the northern side of White Circle at its intersection with Cobb Parkway. Also, and very briefly, an issue that came up at the Planning Commission on the adjoining light industrial property, which had a Cobb County Code Enforcement and EPD issue that arose as it related to a very small stream and some dirt that was a good deal of dirt that was brought to that site and spread out, and there was a stream violation that was reported to the EPD as well as with Cobb County Code Enforcement. This particular applicant dealt with that in a very professional and legal manner, went through the process, extensive process with the EPD and Cobb County Code Enforcement to make sure that it immediately came into code compliance, going through that process and satisfied EPD, and I want to confirm that. It was satisfied EPD with what he had done, how it was being remediated, the ongoing testing that will be implemented, and also satisfied Cobb County in terms of code compliance. So this is not an issue of this particular applicant not being in code compliance. In fact, he's gone through that process to ensure that he is, even on adjacent property that has nothing to do with this proposal. But with that, certainly we do not believe that R20 in this location, completely surrounded by light industrial, is appropriate, nor was it viable as a property category. We believe that reduced to office services and with the support of those whom we've been dealing with, it's an appropriate application for office services with the stipulations that we've just reviewed with you. And we respectfully request your approval of this application. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Carol Brown with Canton Road Neighbors. Mr. Fields is here, and he's actually representing Hamilton Grove. I'm just speaking basically for Canton Road Neighbors generally. We are happy with deletion to OS. I think it's a reasonable compromise. I just want to read our requested stipulations again and make sure that the stipulations that Kevin Moore has said are agreeable match up with ours. Deletion to OS, brick facade on buildings where visible from White Circle, landscape strip fronting subject property, which would be behind the sidewalk, curb, and gutter. Retain buffer or green space where in proximity to off-site stream, maximum 70% impervious in CAC. No semi-tractor trailer delivery, parking, or storage on site. Office entrances to face White Circle, loading bays to face interior of site. Black vinyl chain link fence around parking, loading bay area. No outdoor storage. Limited hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday from 8 to 1, and closed Sunday. District Commissioner to approve architectural treatment of buildings and landscape plan. Staff comments where not otherwise in conflict. Thank you.
My name is Dan Fields, and I'm representing the Hamilton Grove Homeowners Association. And we appreciate Mr. Moore and Ms. Brown's involvement in this. Those were 12 items that she listed, but one of the major concerns that the homeowners have, in addition, is the truck traffic coming off of White Circle to the south, off of 1941. And we were very pleased to understand that the traffic will now be directed to the north access to 1941 off of White Circle. And we really appreciate the applicant working with us on that. I'll leave it up to your legal folks to determine how that will be worded. And Commissioner, we appreciate your involvement in listening to us and hearing our concerns and what you've done to put us together. And I really think that if we can have the tractor trailer traffic not passing in front of the entrance of a subdivision and coming through the other entrance, that will solve a lot of the angst and some of the concern of the homeowners in Hamilton Grove. Thank you very much.
All yours.
Thanks, and I too appreciate everybody working together and coming to an agreement here. This is surrounded by LI and it is in an industrial area. However, I too feel that LI is too intense for this particular parcel. So I do support the OS with Ms. Brown's letter or email dated May 12th, and I know I sent it to the clerk's office, but I have that and an email from Mr. Fields from May 15th to include in the record as well, outlining those stipulations from Ms. Brown's letter, and also I have a few to add. Before I make a motion and go through all the conditions that I want to attach to this, Mr. Moore, can you come up? Do you have the consent order from EPD or an email or letter or something that says you're in compliance?
I did not
I know we
handle,
talked about that and I asked you
Yeah.
to submit it.
I
just
had
for
not
the record.
received that from his environmental compliance attorney other than confirmation that the EPD consent order had been entered in February of this past year of 2017. But I did not receive it I didn't handle that for him, so I didn't have access to it. I
Okay.
requested it, but I don't have the actual order, but it's been entered and I've confirmed that. I just don't have the actual paper.
Okay, can
Copy.
you email that to us when you,
I'd be happy to as soon as
Receive
I
a
receive
copy.
it from him.
okay. Because I'd like to have that in the record that you are now in compliance.
We'd be happy to.
Okay, because that was brought up at Planning
was.
Commission, and I just want to set the record straight.
Yeah, and I've personally confirmed that it's in compliance with EPD and with Cobb County. So
Okay, well, we'll give you to after the meeting, a couple weeks or however long you need to get it
as soon
submitted.
as I get it from his environmental attorney, I will forward that. on.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
I'll make sure the clerk gets it. Also, we talked about restricting from your property. I can't make this a no truck traffic road because of what it is, White Circle with all the industrial that's already existing. And I know the two subdivisions are in the city limits of Marietta, and some of this other industrial is also city limits, so, but we can have this applicant restrict his access to from the south side of White Circle so that they won't be going by Hamilton Grove or Briarfield. So, you have agreed to post signs at the entrance exiting no right turn so that the trucks have to go left to the northern end of White Circle onto 41 to access 41 or wherever they're going.
That's correct.
Okay. And then you'll also notify all the truck traffic that comes into your facility that they have to access from the north end of White Circle.
That's correct.
Okay. So that will be a stipulation and that will be enforced.
We're very agreeable to it and believe that will be helpful for our neighbors and area residents to the south. And also it's the easiest way to get there. So we think it'll be very workable and very enforceable from our standpoint.
Okay. Are you good with that, Mr. Fields? Thank you. Okay, that's all I have unless anybody
Thank you,
else has any
Commissioner.
questions.
I was out there yesterday, as a matter of fact, I believe it was, looking around. The light industrial that's in progress or in construction, that's the one directly to the south and west of this?
That's correct.
What is their access? Does it go through the O&I?
That's correct. That's actually in December of 16, at the end of last year, the board approved that little OI triangle, and rezoned that office institutional. All it does is provide the access and some parking for the light industrial piece. The light industrial perfect square that you see there on your screen, that's existing light industrial, and it just did not have a piece it didn't have access that was zoned correctly for development. It was a storage yard, and so it had to remain a storage yard. And so in order to develop it, we had to make sure we had appropriate code compliant access. So what the board did in that instance as well was just zone that office institutional, but it's plan specific access only, gated access only, and that's what's under development right now.
Okay,
That's what
remember.
you're seeing.
Okay, thank you very much. And then both that and the one directly to the south and east of that
Yes,
appear to be active. I don't know if
they are.
Commissioner Burrell's been out there, but what we're proposing is going to be the nicest thing out there, other than the apartments that are being built.
Yes.
So I guess I would be almost concerned about trying to clean up what's there as well as trying to make this look better. But if you're good with the OS, I would have supported the LNI since it's surrounded by LNI. But that's thank you.
And the existing LI that's there, that's under development now, will make things a lot better, especially for the residents, because it was a grandfathered storage yard from many, many years ago when this particular applicant purchased it in 2012. So it was just a gigantic storage yard. Now that it's under development for light industrial, to clean that up.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
John. Okay, I see a code enforcement in August of 2014, okay, number of violations. And the EPD one, is that a separate violation?
Those two things you just mentioned, Mr. Chairman, are not on the property we're talking about for rezoning. They're on the property zoned LI that's below it.
Okay,
It's the same owner, but he had some problems last year. with the
yeah,
property.
$20,000 in problems.
But he's now in compliance.
Well, that's not the issue to me. I mean, this
Okay.
is like a $20,000 EPD violation in this day and age. Like, we thought we wouldn't get caught. So are these two separate violations?
Yes,
So we have a record here of a company that basically doesn't have any regard for environmental considerations in this county. Is that what I'm hearing?
it's not been good in the past, but it should be better in the future.
So how are we going to make sure that this track record doesn't continue?
That's something we can look at with our code enforcement department. We can have them go out there at normal interval.
Can we put that in the stipulation,
Sure,
an annual inspection?
sure.
I just want to make sure because I understand one, but I don't understand a record. Particularly, I mean, you really have to go through great lengths to get the EPD involved in a situation. It's got to be a pretty significant violation.
Correct.
Because they expect the counties to enforce the rest of the guidelines. So the EPD to get involved, that does not speak well. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to approve this, that we don't forget about it, and that we have we ensure compliance by our department to make sure that we monitor this area.
Okay.
Okay?
Is the LI where the violations were
Yes,
city or county?
county.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we have
Yes.
jurisdiction before we,
Okay, and so are all Ms. Brown's stipulations placed into the record now?
I'm getting ready to
Okay, I just want to
read them
make
as
sure,
my
because I
motion.
thought they were really well done, Carol. That was very well stated.
Okay, so I'm ready to make a motion. That we delete Z21 to OS, subject to stip letter with site plan dated 4/27/17 from Mr. Kevin Moore. Letter of stipulations from Carol Brown's email dated May 12th. And I will read them as well. And also the email from Mr. Dan Fields dated May 15th for the record. Brick facade on buildings where visible from White Circle, landscape strip fronting subject property behind sidewalk, curb and gutter, retained buffer or green space where in proximity to off-site stream, maximum 70% impervious surface, no semi-tractor trailer delivery, parking, or storage on site, office entrances to face White Circle, loading bays to face interior of site, black vinyl chain link fence around parking, loading bay area, no outdoor storage, restricted right turn out of the entrance and no entry from the south end of White Circle. Applicant will post signs saying no right turn and also notify their customers that they have to enter and exit from the north end of White Circle from 41. Hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., no Sunday hours. District Commissioner to approve architectural treatment of buildings and landscape plan and annual inspection by code enforcement. How do I word that for the chairman's
Well, I
comment?
just want to clarify, the, any zoning conditions are going to be subject only to this property.
Right,
So if the chairman was looking for annual inspections of the neighboring property, no,
No.
just the
this property.
subject
Just this
property.
property.
Okay,
so annual inspections from code enforcement and EPD?
No,
Just code
no.
enforcement.
code
Just our
enforcement.
code enforcement, okay. For this parcel
Correct.
only, okay. District Commissioner and County Arborist to approve landscape plan and District Commissioner to approve final site plan, architectural plan. And one other, all operations to be performed inside the buildings. Where's Mr. Moore? You're good with that? Yes. Okay. Because that's, some of those were ones I added to Carol's list. Okay, and then staff and planning commission comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Second, I just have a question. On this write-in, or, so is that into both entrances here? Because there's two entrances on here. Well, actually, there's three.
Well,
I mean, because,
there's one entrance on,
well, but there's
Here.
three on the site plan. There's three entrances
Two.
on the site plan.
where's the third?
Down
Oh,
on the far
here.
right. And so you have a stipulation in there that they have to notify their customers that they have to come in the north entrance on White Circle, which is not on this map. And then,
It's down here.
right. And then are all three of these entrances right in, right out? So that then people would be leaving?
They're no right out. We don't want them
Okay, so
going
there's no,
down to
right,
the
so you want,
south
okay, all
side.
right, that's,
So they're gonna post signs that say no right turn at the exit. They
At all
have to
three
go
of them then?
left.
so you
At
wanted all
the
three?
At all three entrances. Yes, Kevin,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so just to clarify, they're gonna come
Yeah,
in the north
at
entrance
all
on White
entrances.
Circle, and then each one of the three entrances will have a sign that
Yeah.
says no
They're
right.
gonna have to notify their customers that are delivering and.
Yeah, no, I got that part, I just, there's three entrances. and
Because we can only restrict the truck traffic to this parcel. It's already
Right, no, I get that, there was three entrances.
yes,
Can I,
that's a good
can I help?
point.
If I could?
Please.
And that, you may have missed one statement I made because I was going through this in my presentation, but the entrance that Commissioner Ott is referencing is this one here that's on the eastern portion of the property. That would be eliminated.
So there'll be two.
So there'd just be the two, there probably will be two entrances here and that makes that restriction work. Because if it's over on this side, I think that's what the commissioner may be looking at and Commissioner
So are
Burrow.
you closing that off?
Yeah, there will not be an entrance
Okay.
on that eastern side because that would tend to draw traffic then from the southern part of
Right.
White Circle.
Okay,
So that we can, and the site plan is subject to two things as part of our letter. Number one is District Commissioner final approval, and number two, Department of Transportation approval of the access and entries for
For
this
site
property, because we know we've got to deal with that because it's on this curve. So we had included that as part of our stipulations, but if we just want to to end the issue, just say no access or entrance on that eastern side of the property. That would be fine.
Okay.
Or no more than 2 entrances is fine as well. But that would
Well,
eliminate
just so
it.
we have it posted, wherever the entrances are gonna end up, but, I mean, if you wanna commit to closing this entrance off now, I'm fine with that.
Yes,
I'd rather not have that anyway.
correct. I
Okay.
think that'll just lead to confusion.
Okay, so the signs will be posted and the, access will be restricted at the 2 entrances, and the eastern entrance will be closed
Eliminated, correct.
or eliminated. Okay.
That's agreeable.
Are you good with that amendment? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Call a question. Passes 5-0. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, moving into land use permits on the regular agenda. LUP 5, Natalia Vilchenko requests a land use permit for the purpose of 3 hens and land lot 173 of the 16th district. The property is located on the west side of North Mountain Road, southwest of Forest Peak Circle. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 5? Let the record show there's 12 people here in opposition to LUP 5. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in. May I get a show of people here who are in support of LUP 5? We got 3. Let the record show there's 3 people here in support. 12.
Okay, Ms. Vilchenko, I want you, first of all, I appreciate you coming this morning, and I see your explanation here on the screen. So I just want you to know that I'll give you some extra time, because I realize how difficult it is to translate into the English language from your parent language. So just again, state your case. We're glad you're here today, and if you can, relax. We have candy up here. It's okay. We're just a very friendly forum here. We just want to hear your explanation, and I'll give you some extra time if you so need it. Okay? So welcome.
Well, I'm her next door neighbor.
That's fine.
I'm here to help her out.
I'm not giving you extra time.
After you hear what I have to say, you probably don't want to hear me.
That's not true.
She's very, very nervous. She's from Belarus.
Right.
Communist country, whatever. When she go before a board like this in her country, they arrest them and torture and whatever. And after you hear some of the things I said about this, she is treated much better here than she could have been there.
Okay, that's why I'm gonna give her some extra time. I spoke to her before the meeting, and I think your English is very good. I commend you. English is a very difficult language, so I just want you to know that we'll make all the proper allowances to let you state your case, and you're welcome this morning. I want you to know that.
Thank
you. Thank you very much.
Please stand close to the microphone, though, so we can all hear you, okay?
Good morning. English is my second language. I cannot defend myself very well in English. For me, it's really hard to find right words fast in answer, especially when I'm nervous. The people who oppose this are more capable of staying their position against me. That's why I prepared this PowerPoint presentation. In case if you don't understand my accent, I printed it, everything here.
You're doing great. You're doing wonderful. So I don't think you have a problem with your English. Except for Mr. Weatherford here, who comes from Alabama. So you might want to speak a little slower for him.
We have only one child who dreamed about his own pets for a long time. Unfortunately, by several reasons, we cannot have a pet living in our house. I didn't see any other choice but chickens. We bought 4 2-day-old chickens on website mypetchickens.com. Definition: poultry are domesticated birds kept by humans for eggs they produce, the meat, or their feathers. If there are ducks or geese that are kept as pets, they shall not be considered poultry, unlike the domesticated chickens. I buy everything for my pet chicken needs in the pet store, where I have a membership card, or online on my pet chicken website. This is actually before it was invoiced from the site that we bought our chickens there, and this is another invoice for the chicken leashes. We have been living in Highland Point for 4 years. We always thought our community was very family-oriented. But now a small group of people suspected 3 hens could make real estate prices down, and are attempting to convince everyone to help them to make us to get rid of our only pets. My son doesn't have any cousins living in USA. His grandparents live outside our country too.
Come on.
I would ask him. So, my chickens.
She's emotionally.
This is part of my family. I would ask everyone to put yourself in our shoes and let us keep our chickens. They are all of small decoration size, very beautiful and small. They do not smell and bark. We kept them clean and healthy. Their names are Raba, Gray, and Polka Dots.
You need to move on quickly here.
There are only 3 neighbors' houses which can see our chickens, and all of them love our chickens, and no one complains about it. I would probably ask you to read it by yourself. This is a letter from my closest neighbor.
She has a whole bunch of letters from neighborhood, and she won't read all of those.
This is a letter from Mr. Whitham.
That's from me.
Here.
That's me.
And I would like to show
I need
you
you to go back to that previous slide. We need to read the slide first, okay? Just let's read the slide, and then you can go on with your presentation. I want to take about a minute to read the slide, okay? Would you like some water?
I have water with me.
Okay, all right, okay.
That's mine. I live next door to her. And I had no clue she had chickens. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter at all to me.
Yeah, could you go back to the prior letter, Cornelius? There you go, thank you.
They're the ones who live right next to me and right next to her. They're from Minnesota. I don't know if that counts again or not.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Good try.
There's a whole bunch of others like that. I don't know, we have to,
Okay, Cornelius, you can roll, I think, 2 slides. There you go. All right, we're good.
And this is views of at my house from my nearest neighbors. Could you please probably just, yes. We have 3 slides there. This is my closest neighbors, which can see only this view. Next. And one more next. One more next. And down. Next. On May 2nd, at the Cobb County Planning Commission meeting, there were 3 main reasons which opposition motivated. Our neighbors across the street said they didn't want us to keep chickens, but they cannot see them at all because we live on the hill. There are pictures with their views of our house from their locations.
their houses are not even with the road, they're down farther. So they may be 1.5 times lower than her house.
Well, we'll let them, they're going to have their chance to present
Okay.
their case, so just go ahead and present yours, and we'll let them present
And I
theirs.
live right next door in a 2-story house, and my entire house is below hers.
Okay,
So to give you some idea. And this is almost a half an acre.
They even didn't know about our chickens before I put zoning permit sign. They are going to sell their houses, and instead of repairing their old houses or negotiating the price, they fight against our chickens. I did a brief research about it. According to the Ken Cook, mortgage banker, Jen Bowman, broker associate, and Ryan Brasher, vice president of the Georgia Association of Realtors, owning chickens does not affect the property value of a home unless the chickens dwelling in the attached to the main home. People have stopped the home buying process on a property because of large barking dog in the neighborhood, but they could think of no citation where a house purchase was halted due to a few chickens in the backyard of the neighbors next door. On the May 2nd meeting, Mrs. neighbor living across the street mentioned that she would not buy a property if she knew some neighbors have chickens. But I would love to buy a house with a chicken's neighbors. A great example. This is property of our neighborhood, 4546 Forest Park Circle. This property was recently sold for 10% more money than they bought it 18 months ago. And this property has full view on the chicken coop. We have one more property sold. This is my also nearest neighbors. And when, can you tell?
Well, good. There's a house
No, that-
right behind her. I don't know if you can throw this up. This is a house that was pending when all this chicken things happened. And actually, we suspect it was one of the realtors that turned her in, whatever. This house has been sold, is under contract for pretty close to list price and pretty close to Zillow. There's been no effect whatsoever on home values with her having these chickens. This house is right behind her house, and it's pending sale right now. And I talked to the realtor, and he said it had no effect whatsoever on the sale price of the house.
So during the nearest period, actually 2 houses with full view of chicken coops were sold without any problem. The second main reason why opposition motivated, I have one more before. You scroll one. Go forward. Up. Yes. But I would bet you that if these buyers had a window into how people in this subdivision speak to one another, they would have reconsidered living in Highland Point. The second main reason which opposition motivated was their conviction that 3 little chickens attract wild animals, such as foxes or raccoons. And in Highland Point discussions on Facebook, Facebook, people have seen coyotes as well in the past. So this is a response for my post on Facebook. And my neighbor, she says that she always seen foxes, raccoons, opossums, deers for 22 years living in our neighborhood. Next. Moreover, there are a lot of rabbits living in our neighborhood. 2 years ago, when we didn't have any chicken at all, we saw a bear reeling across the road. That was really dangerous, not only for small pets, but for kids. But that bear was not even moved from the community to a wild place. It's most likely it lives here again, still. But 3 small chickens, by opinion of several people, are really dangerous for everyone. This is the second part of my brief research. Raising chickens in a backyard is
We'll go ahead and read this, okay?
good.
We good? Okay, next slide, please.
Speaking of safety, I know at last one neighbor across the street, and she were worried that chickens attract wildlife attempting to eat my pet chickens. Yes, it could be true, but this cannot happen again. After the fox ate one of my chicks, I hired a professional to build a stable enclosure. This cannot happen as they are in a stable wire enclosure. And I know she has a pet rabbit which I saw several times playing at her driveway by itself without any gathering from wildlife. Don't you scare for people passing your house because your rabbit can attract general animals? Any animal looking for a meal is much more likely to be attracted to rabbits, stray cats, and squirrels than our pet chicken. Their position. Please, do not call my pet chickens farm life or even poultry. I provided many evidences they are my pets. It's not right to call them the poultry. I have them not because of their meat or egg. To call my property farm is not accurate. A farm is an area of facility in food production. I do not produce food. My chickens are part of my family. And last and third main reason which opposition motivated. They were afraid if I will be allowed to keep my chickens, then many other neighbors would like to have chickens at their backyards too. But I doubt about it very much. My chickens cost me a lot of money. Just look at these numbers. I didn't include any food and maintenance fee. $200 payment for applying for variants. $200 coop for little chickens. $500 facing from the wildlife. About $300 for infrared lamp, leashes, swings, and other accessory. More than $1,200 comparing to 1 dozen of farm-raised organic eggs cost maximum $5. Does it mean that we definitely have them as our dearest pets? Once we applied for a variance as per Cobb County enforcement recommendation, some people suddenly became strongly opposed to our pets, even if they were not directly affected by them. Corey Hinz called herself a chicken racist, and this is actually her post.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you. I think we have the gist of your presentation and where you're going on this. And what I want to do is I'm going to give the opposition equal time to discuss.
Can I add some stuff?
Now, we've given you 15 minutes, which is five more than, almost 16 minutes. So I think 16 minutes is more than adequate for your presentation. So thank you for your time this morning. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give the opposition 16 minutes, okay, if you'd add that, in the interest of fairness. Thank you very much for your presentation.
There may be one person.
Yeah, and you don't need to stand out. You can call, you can just come up one at a time. I don't want you to, stand for 16 minutes, and you also kind of block the people in the back. So we'll just go ahead and sit. We'll call you up. Don't worry, I'll give you plenty of time to give your presentation. And you can start. And
Yes.
let me know your name and where you live, please.
My name is Paul Amaruso. I live in Highland Point on High Rock Terrace, which is actually the way up to the water fountains on the back, water towers on the back. Silence has never been one of my virtues, but I got a cold and people don't want me to talk. But just to let you know, I am the president. I've been a board member since May of 2013. I've been the president since January 2016. So if there's any questions the county commissioner has of me, I'm here for that. I'm just going to defer some of my neighbors, because I just cannot speak very well right now.
Sure, no problem.
Which a lot of my neighbors and my wife are happy about that. But
No sweat. Hope you feel better.
thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lance Rule. I'm here today to discuss chickens. My remarks will be brief. I know everyone has larger issues to address. I live 2 doors down the street from the applicant at 4239 North Mountain Road. And I did hear the rooster several months back, although it's been silent as of recently. I never expected this issue would raise such a controversy in the neighborhood. There has been a significant amount of chatter in social media and through email distribution, both for and against the matter. An online survey circulated in the neighborhood captured over 100 responses, and the results ran 2/3 against and 1/3 for the application. Much of the argument supporting the application centered on emotional appeals to keep chickens as pets, or it's my property and I can do what I want with my property type of thinking. The fact of the matter is you can't do whatever you want with your property. I can't run a commercial business out of my home in a residentially zoned neighborhood. I can't park a bunch of dead cars, trailers, and debris in my yard, as it makes the home look like a junkyard and it's an unsightly mess. The fact of the matter is we live in an area with residential zoning and HOA covenants controlling and restricting what takes place. Everyone was aware of and agreed to these controls when they purchased their home. The controls were important to me when I looked for a home to purchase 25 years ago, and I purchased in an upscale swim tennis community, and I have no interest in living next to a problem. Controls maintain a nice quality of life for all residents and protect our property values. This change in land use will devalue our property and establish a precedence inconsistent with current community standards. I respectfully request the commissioners deny this application. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Camissa Thornton, and I live at 4238 North Mountain Road, which is directly across the street from Natalia, although it is kind of down. She lives up on a hill, so I'm kind of like down just a little bit. But I would like to add that any noise that is generated on her property circulates towards my property, and I can definitely say with certainty that your chickens can be heard from my property. I didn't even know that she actually had chickens, and I actually was alerted to the fact that she had chickens because I initially heard the rooster. Several days later, I heard the chickens. Just recently, as of Saturday and Sunday, I also heard the chickens in my yard. So again, you can't say that the chickens, don't cause a nuisance, because they do, because they can be heard. They attract wild animals. I would like to say that when I originally looked for a home, I looked at Highland Point, I looked at a number of subdivisions. The main reason why I chose to purchase my home in Highland Point was because of a strong HOA. I wanted the same controls that Lance just spoke about when he purchased his home. I believe in maintaining strong housing values. That is very important to me. I made a list of items that I didn't want to live by when I initially purchased my home. The chickens weren't there when I purchased my home, and I intend for them not to be there while I'm living there. One of the reasons why I pay my HOA fees is to ensure that these things do not happen and that they are addressed when they do occur. I just wanted to say that, again, chickens, they do attract wildlife. My mom has chickens. I grew up with chickens. It's not a day that I don't go over there that there's some type of animal that's in a trap because of the chickens. I live on the back of a creek, and frequently I walk my dog, and so I see foxes running back and forth from my property up towards Natalia's property, and as well as other places. But again, what I want to stress again is it's a HOA community. We all bought into a certain way that we wanted to maintain our homes, we wanted to maintain our property. And again, I am in strong opposition of the chickens issue with Natalia. And I did want to speak on one thing. Natalia did mention the rabbit. I do own a rabbit, but that is my daughter's rabbit, and the rabbit stays in my basement in my home. The rabbit is not out in my yard in any type of enclosure. And perhaps when she did see the rabbit in my driveway, my daughter was outside washing the cage. So no, I do not keep any type of poultry or livestock or anything like that in my yard. And again, I'm strongly opposed to anyone who does within the subdivision. Thank you.
My name is Mike Montgomery. I live at 4240 North Mountain Road, directly across the street from the property in question. We've lived there for 30 years within the next couple of weeks. And I'm not going to go through a lot of points because I think Lance and Camissa have made those points. But our objection to this is that there are zoning regulations, there are covenants and that sort of thing. And we definitely are opposed to any relaxation of the zoning requirements and covenants. They're there for a reason. Just as a matter of precedent, we are opposed to granting any waiver to the zoning regulations. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Laura Waldrop. I am a resident of Highland Point. Others have addressed the issues of property value and predators. I would like to reinforce the issue of precedent. Where one goes, others will follow. This variance has the potential to become a slippery slope, opening the door for others to follow suit or even to expand the scope of this variance to other farm animals. I'm not against chickens. In fact, with the whole farm-to-table movement, I've been quite enamored with the idea of raising chickens, especially to reap the benefits of farm-fresh eggs. However, I do not want to see, hear, or smell them in my neighbor's yard. I do not want to attract more foxes, coyotes, or other predators to our neighborhood. In fact, the applicant lost one of the 4 original chickens to a fox. And I certainly do not want the value of my single largest investment, my home, to be impacted negatively based on the likely bias of prospective buyers who are opposed to living among farm animals. I oppose the proposal to allow chickens to be kept in a 498-home HOA mandated swim tennis community where the lot size is less than ½ acre. To consider a variance for a property that is within a planned development, a property that has less than 25% of the current 2-acre minimum, and which has a setback of less than half of the current 30-foot minimum, is simply untenable. This chicken variant serves only the applicant and would be a detriment to the rest of our community and subdivision. I'm not against chickens, just against chickens being kept in a planned HOA-governed swim tennis community where neighbors live in close proximity to each other and who would undoubtedly be impacted by this and potential future similar variances. We are not a farming or agricultural community. The applicant sent out a broadcast email to Highland Point residents appealing to the emotional side of this issue and asking, "Do you love your children?" My answer is absolutely. I love my kids enough to teach them that they live among other people in a community that has rules and laws to promote and protect the interests of the common good. I am not raising my children to become entitled, believing that the rest of the world should bend to their whims and desires. There are many other ways to teach my children about the circle of life that do not involve keeping chickens or breaching the law. Further, any argument that other Atlanta communities allow chickens on smaller parcels does not mean that we should allow the same in Cobb County. The residents of Cobb County have chosen to live here and in Highland Point for many reasons that are unique compared to other Atlanta suburbs. Other Atlanta communities have also have MARTA lines. Does that mean that Cobb County should welcome MARTA? Of further concern is the question of how chicken nuisances will be monitored and violations enforced. If there is noise or other offensive disturbance from the chickens, what is the remedy? Cobb County has nuisance ordinances regarding barking dogs, which, even as written, are difficult to enforce. Would a chicken variance include provisions for enforcement should a nuisance situation emerge over time? Lots of unknowns. Let's not confuse the issue here, which is simply to preserve the properties and protect the collective rights of all homeowners within our shared swim tennis community that has never been intended to be agricultural. Data compiled from an anonymous online SurveyMonkey poll, which captured the first 100 respondents, shows that an overwhelming 68% of homeowners oppose this variance. A ruling on behalf of just one homeowner must be made with an understanding of the potential longer-term impact on our swim tennis community from setting such an unpopular precedent. Please deny this and any other application for a chicken variance within Highland Point. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christine Harden, and I live on Forest Peak Circle. I'm a resident of Highland Point. I am in opposition of the request for the variance. I really would like to point out that, in my opinion, and many people that agree with me, it has nothing to do with country of origin, of nationality. Many of us have kids, many of us have pets, some don't have pets. I live on Forest Peak Circle. I cannot see her property, and I cannot hear her chickens. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But we moved here a little over 2.5 years ago. My husband and I looked at over 30 homes, and different neighborhoods got different reactions from us. We came into Highland Point, immediately loved it, found out there was a homeowners association, found out it was an active homeowners association, and we chose to live in a community that had a provision for what's the word I'm looking for? I should have written it down. Trying to take care of things within our neighborhood. And the truth is that it all boils down to the legal residency of chickens. So let's talk it's about chickens. And in Cobb County, my understanding is that you need 2 acres. So I'm sure she's a lovely person. I'm sure she's got a great family. My family is 18 hours away. I don't ever get to see them. So my opinion is I'm voicing an opposition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay. Mr. Burrow.
Thank you.
Okay, we have received a lot of emails with respect to, Lot 5. And I did prepare a spreadsheet of, those opposed and those in favor of from the subdivision. I understand there's 498 homes in Highland Point. We submitted this for the record, but the final count as of this morning, because we did get a few more yesterday after this was prepared, but there were 48 opposed and 13 in favor of. And we also have on this sheet the addresses and who's in close proximity. Two folks in support are directly behind or next door, and 3 people opposed are directly across the street, next door, and behind. So I would submit this for the record. And it is available if anyone is interested in looking at it. I know there was mention that chickens are restricted in your HOA covenants. We can't enforce covenants. That would be up to your HOA. So, Mr. Amoruso, that would be under your purview, I guess, with your homeowners association. And this case was a result of a code violation. The applicant's lot is just under a half acre, and our code is still 2 acres, but you can apply for a lot for under 2 acres. And this is what has been done here. It is in an R15 subdivision, and the location of the chicken coop would require a variance to waive the rear setback from the required 30 feet to 14 feet. I can't support chickens in a platted subdivision, especially on less than half an acre and that close to your neighbors. I know the property rights issue has come up in the past and today, but when you impact your neighbors and affect your neighbors, you have to look at that. And the opposition is overwhelmingly against chickens in a neighborhood of Highland Point. So also the Planning Commission and staff recommendations were for denial. So with that, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion to deny Lot 5, and the applicant has 30 days to come into compliance.
We have a second? Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Weatherford.
Second.
Any discussion before we call the vote?
I have a
Sure.
question. I believe the planning commission recommended 60 days to come into compliance.
They did,
And
and that was 2 weeks ago, so
understand.
I could do 45 or,
Sounds good.
I'd prefer to see more time if we're going to do it.
you prefer 60?
No, I mean,
Okay, I will amend it to 45, because that would be 2 weeks from the 60 days that the planning commission had. I'll amend it to 45
Okay.
days.
So we got an amendment to the 45 days, all right? We got to vote on that, right? Or would you just revise your
just
comments?
revise.
Commissioner Weatherford is
I agree with that.
We're good, okay, all right, so it's amended to 45 days. The only comment I'm gonna make is that I remember this whole process of bringing, of the ordinance for the 2 acres. And I remember that it started, was a long time ago, and then finally, Mr. Pond brought a group of citizens here together who I thought very eloquently expressed, you know, why backyard chickens were not a bad program for Cobb County. But more importantly, they brought a compromise proposal to the table, which is, I think, how democracy works. We had two sides, one opposed, one favoring, and we came to an agreement here in the county of the 2 acres, where you had to come and get permission for variances. And I think that best reflects why the system of democracy works in America, that we had people come from both sides. They brought their best arguments, and we found a middle ground that made it work. And I thought 2 acres was a reasonable compromise. I really did. Plus the stipulations of how they had to get permission before they could get the chickens. So as much as I hear Ms. Vilchenko's issue, the bigger issue goes to the order of the land, the law of the land, which was arrived at by input from the people. I do have one question from the HOA president. Who was that? Lance? Okay. Today's voting day. Today's voting day. You know, it's election day. What are your HOA guidelines on people knocking on doors campaigning?
First of all, we have a no soliciting policy.
Okay.
Okay. Having said that, religious groups and political people can come around
and knock on doors.
Knock on the door.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because it sets the tone for sometimes some HOAs who don't understand that there are exemptions to no stipulation policies. And I appreciate the fact that you too reflect the law of the land.
Yes, sir.
That the way we have people who sit up here is to allow us to come make our case at your door. So I appreciate your comment on it, so thank you.
There's no worry about me signing up to run for office.
No, that's all right. You
Don't
don't have to declare your donation, or if I came to your door. So, anyway, I just want to make that, my point is that this is an issue which is very sensitive, but I really appreciate the process that we came to, I thought was a reasonable compromise on the 2 acres. Commissioner Ott.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a little bit, the 2 acres and all that. The original push towards this whole thing was that, unlike all the other section and section 134 in the zoning code, there was no way for someone to appeal or request a reduction from the 2 acres. 2 acres was not agreed upon as part of the compromise. 2 acres has been there all along. Right. All right. And what happened was that, as Mr. Pond pointed out, there was no way for someone to come and appeal because you couldn't file a variance because you had 2 acres. All right. So I just, I kind of have to disagree a little bit because the whole process was there just to allow folks to come in and do the appeal for a smaller lot size. But I think the other thing that really needs to be emphasized is your HOA covenants. The reality is it doesn't matter what we vote today. If your HOA covenants say they can't have them, we can't do anything about that. So this board could approve the chickens today, and your HOA, if that's what your covenants say, can deal with it because it doesn't matter what this board does, okay? So I think it's very important to keep in mind that the process that the chairman talked about that was put in place as a result of Mr. Pond and the folks coming here was to give folks an opportunity to appeal or to request a reduction in lot size. So to just say because they don't have 2 acres, they shouldn't get it, that's what we moved away from. But the fact of the matter is in your neighborhood, and mine has one also, that you can't have agriculture. But I just think it's really important, and Commissioner Burrell said it, but I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that it doesn't really matter what this board votes if that's what your covenants say.
I appreciate you, correcting my statement there, because again, the whole thing was to emphasize that we have a process now where people can come to this board and ask for, a variance. And, I think that came after a long political fight, and we reached some consensus on that. And I think today is an example of that, where whatever we vote on, it's a reflection of the effort that this process today is really a reflection of the people's will. Yeah, Mr. Weatherford.
Thank you, sir. And as Commissioner Ott, and you stated that this is a variance or a request, and it's up to this board, in most cases, to decide whether to allow under 2 acres. And we have in the past, and I have in the past, supported this because each case stands on its own. And in those cases, they had some places that they kept their chickens mainly for eggs and things, and they had the support of the neighbors, and some of those living quarters were better than mine. So I think that you know, I think, but also one of the things was that none of them had roosters, and I think this particular one does. Uh, I don't know, but I'm just saying that this particular case, because of the HOA and others, then I agree with Commissioner Burrow on this. So.
Commissioner Ott is correct. The code was always 2 acres, but you could apply for a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is a separate independent board from this board. You could before, yes, you could, because Joseph Pine came before the BZA and was denied, and then there was an appeal process or a variance process when it's been 2 acres all along. And now you have to get a land use permit from this board, and it's still 2 acres with application of a land use permit. And that's, you could always appeal the 2 acre even through the BZA from day one, so.
Okay, so we have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cupid. Apologize.
I wanted to reiterate some of the points that were shared here today, that our process does allow the consideration of backyard chickens under 2 acres. There's not a 2-acre limit, and that was the case, but this board, by a majority decision, wanted to provide an opportunity for persons to appeal that to the board through the variance process. And as Commissioner Rutherford has shared, we have supported this in the past and sometimes in platted subdivisions. One unique caveat to this ordinance is that it requires support of contiguous neighbors, or it requires us to consider this support or lack of support of contiguous neighbors. And so I thought it was mindful for the applicant to bring support and actually have a contiguous neighbor there, because there have been times in the past where that has helped to sway decisions. But I do agree with the comment that was shared by Commissioner Burrell and Commissioner Ott, that our decision here today does not have the ability to usurp what's being, what is included in your HOA covenants. So even if we denied or supported this, the HOA has latitude, I'm presuming from comments shared, to not allow this activity. And I haven't asked that question clearly, and as maybe the HOA president can share. I'm curious to know squarely, do you have a provision that prevents backyard, or that prevents agriculture or poultry? You're probably gonna have to speak on, I'm sorry.
Our covenants were written in 85 and amended in 99.
Okay.
We'll tell you the history of Highland Point. Our covenants refer back to the county when it comes down to wild animals such as this, any type of pet, any type of animal. So we're defaulting to what the county says.
Do your covenants have a provision that specifically deny a property owner or restrict a property owner from having poultry or animals such as chickens?
Our covenants defer to the county.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, of just our
Okay.
covenants defer to the county.
Then we're in a much different situation than what has been presented, because we do have the ability to rule on this, and for it to apply to the property owner. I'm looking at the county attorney just to be sure, because we do have flexibility to consider this within the county. And so I've been sitting up here, and then possibly other commissioners, thinking that really, why would we make a decision that conflicted with the HOA? But if you're referring to us, and if we provided our board latitude to consider this, then I think that it changes the lens of how we evaluate this.
I'm responding to your question, to be forthright, is that our limitations are what are. We are a voluntary community. I don't know if you knew that. We're not a mandatory homeowners.
Okay.
We have 498, of which 430 are members of the community, paying members. There are people who have, some of the original members decided never to join. There are some contingencies to get them when the property sells to become members. But I'm trying to give you the picture of where this property
That's
was
interesting also.
was from 85 on, and you have to slowly, the county has changed some of the regulations. New developers have to come in there and mandate people being property owners. But until we get 100% compliance, we can't have people forced to become members. So I just want to tell you where the documents are at. And they were changed, but there's nothing in specific saying you can have dogs and cats and no other type of animals. There's nothing in there. It refers to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
No, don't go anywhere.
Oh, gosh, you're killing me.
No, I know. This is a yes or no question, okay? I'm very familiar with the process that you talked about because a lot of neighborhoods that had the older covenants, when they renewed them, and you may not know the answer, but did she or the property owner that she bought the house from, did they sign on to the renewal of the covenants? Because if they didn't, she's not covered by the covenants.
She's not, well, I just didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
My question is, the property owners that she bought the property from, did they agree in 99? Is that when you said you renewed the covenants?
We renewed them in 99, modified them in 99.
Right. Her property, was it under the covenants?
Well, again, Commissioner, just one step back. Everybody's under the covenants.
No, not if they're not a paying member and they did not sign to be under the new covenants, they're not under the covenants.
Beth, was that a permanent property when Natalie?
It doesn't, no, everybody is covered by covenants.
Right, everybody's covered by covenants, but I think the question.
Recreation part is
the answer is yes, because
Let me ask you, did your covenants expire?
They were renewed back in, no.
No, but I know, did they expire before you renewed them?
No. Again, I'm a volunteer in this job.
No, I understand. No, believe me, I understand.
I have to ask the lady who's the administrator, but no, we renewed them. I don't know when it was. I just don't know.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you something I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
It would be helpful to really know what the circumstances of this community. I think it will color how we consider what's been shared here today. And it's very unclear, one, if there is a provision. Well, it's unclear if there is a mandatory homeowners association from what we're hearing today. It's unclear, as Commissioner Rutherford was asking, whether or not, because of the amount of time that the HOA has been existing, they do expire. It's unclear whether or not there's an active covenant that's operating on this property.
Excuse me, but we can't enforce covenants anyway. So
Commissioner Burrell,
whatever it
Commissioner Burrell.
is their business, and we can't enforce that.
Commissioner Burrell,
my motion still stands.
I prefer that you don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
No, I wasn't.
I'm telling you, but I prefer you don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Okay.
It's unclear what the contractual obligation is of the resident who's applied here today. And from what has been portrayed, again, it has caused me to view this matter as if it was purely a HOA matter and not through the lens that we've considered other applications. When, as Commissioner Weatherford has shared before, we have considered and supported this in communities that have been platted in times past, particularly when there has been contiguous support of neighbors and when there has not been significant, egregious, or visual impact on surrounding residents. So I would like to see, before I can make, I feel as if I am limited in my ability to make a decision on this matter with the information that's been provided here today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. First of all, to Commissioner Burrell's point, it wouldn't matter what the HOA says, all right? We're talking about an ordinance here that they're applying for a land use permit for. So the HOA issue is an element in the discussion, but it is not the primary element in the discussion, because as pointed out by Commissioner Ott, if they had an HOA covenant that was formal, we would still, it would still not, our decision here would still not override the HOA covenants.
Correct.
Right. So the issue here now is that members have come up here today in opposition stand that it violates the HOA covenants, when in fact, the HOA is voluntary. And if she's not, if the applicant has not signed on to that covenant, then my understanding it would not apply to her, because it's a voluntary HOA.
Right, and as I understood, and perhaps the president could clarify whenever I get there, but if she didn't sign on to it, as you just stated, then it's not applicable to her at all. If she did sign and agree to be bound by those covenants,
Right.
the covenants, and of course, I've not read those documents, so I can't, but as I understood the president to say, the related to pets and animals, they defer to the county.
Right.
So they don't have anything that says you can't have it. If the county allows it, then it would be allowed under the covenant, as I understand it. Otherwise, I've got to read it if he can't clarify that.
Yeah, because the issue is, what Commissioner Cupid is saying is she doesn't have all the documents that she can make an informed decision on, okay? But if the applicant is not signed on to the HOA covenant, then that argument about it is irrelevant, it's moot.
She did sign on to the covenants. It's a permanent property. Everybody moves in the subdivision. When she bought the property, her particular case, she did sign on to the documents.
But you told me that the HOA is a volunteer.
You can't force people to sign the documents. It's a mandatory thing to use to become an HOA member and become a rec member.
All right, so we have two different things here. It's one thing to sign up for the tennis club. It's
Well, no,
something
you're
else.
not, excuse me, in all respect, you're signing up for the covenants, become an HOA member
Right.
to contribute to the swim and tennis club as well as to do making the niceties of the subdivision. I said before, Commissioner, is that some people do not sign.
Do not
We can't
sign.
force them to sign.
They do not
This party
sign-
did sign the
they do-
documents.
So they're a member to your HOA covenants.
That's correct.
They're signed on to it.
Yes, that's
All right,
correct.
so they voluntarily signed on to that.
That is correct. I just want to make sure that particular property, I just didn't know when they did it, but because they're a permanent HOA member, they are a member of this.
Because they signed the covenant,
Right,
that's
that's
why they're
correct, sir.
permanent, okay.
And then I'm sorry, Commissioner.
But just because they're a member of the covenant, your covenants defer to the county.
Right.
And again,
So-
subject to what the board.
Right, well, no, yeah, I get,
We as
yeah.
a board members are trying to take an
I get
action
that,
here.
yeah, no, I understand that part, and the only reason we bring it up is because what Commissioner Cupid's saying, and these have been contentious votes every time we've had them on the chickens, okay?
Right.
And some of the members have voted, if there's HOA covenants that prohibit it,
Right.
more than likely you would have a 5-0 vote. The
Right,
problem is, if there are not HOA covenants to vote on it, it's usually a split vote. And I think that's where Commissioner Cupid's going, is that there's no reason, I mean, if there's covenants that prevent it, why would the board vote yes? Because they're not going to be
Right.
permitted anyway, but because there are some board members that believe that chickens are okay, and so that's, I think, where Commissioner Cupid was going, and what we're being told by the covenants, it's all very confusing, and I live in an older neighborhood, and I have some older neighborhoods in the district, because it's very specific, my understanding of what has to be signed for a person to put their property under the covenants.
I mean, if I got 2 minutes, if you don't mind, I'll read these things.
Go ahead.
Right.
Property and attached to the
Deed.
property through Cobb County. So it just, once it becomes permanent, we have covenants for phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 that our neighborhood was built upon as in phases, and then they, in 2000, they started covenant, so that became phase 5, so whether you're permanent HOA or permanent rec, you still have the same.
I got it.
And once 3 and 4
Okay, so I think we're clear. I think we're clear.
No.
She is a permanent member of the HOA. And your covenants say, on issues like this, you defer to the board.
If I read,
All right.
it's covered, just 2 minutes. Pets, no participating member or occupant of participating member lot may keep any pet other than the reasonable number of generally recognized household pets on any portion of Highland Point property or the Grove, as determined by the board's discretion. Any pet owner owned by a participating member or any occupant of a participating member lot which endangers the health of the owner or occupant and which creates a nuisance or unreasonable disturbance or may be defined by the ordinance and the laws of Cobb County must be permanently removed by the Highland Point property or the Grove, which is a secondary thing, upon 7 days of written notice by the board. If the participating member occupant fails to comply with such notice, the board may remove the pet. Those are the documents.
No, hold on. So I guess my question is, why did you make an effort to remove the pet?
No, actually, we found out about the pet, when she did the variance, to be totally honest with you. We had one person call and complain, we were looking into it. The next thing we know, the blue sign was up there. So the answer is, we did not get to write the letter because we waited for the variance. We saw the
Okay.
variance
All
sign.
right. So regardless, you put this case in our hands, and that's where we are right now. So I think.
And Mr. Chairman,
I think we're good to call the
Yeah.
question. All right, so the question, the motion right now is to deny the application. And if you vote yes, that means you vote to deny. If you vote no, that means you vote not to deny.
And give them 45 days.
And 45 days, that's correct. So I'll call the question. And passes 3-2 to deny. Okay, next case.
Yes, sir. LUP 7, Renika Rogan requests a land use permit for the purpose of a personal care home expanding to 9 residents and land lot 1142 of the 19th District. The property is located on the northeast corner of Clay Road and Golden Circle. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 7? Two. Okay, let the record show there's 2 people opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
John, can we take like a 10-minute recess?
Yes, sir.
Is that possible? I apologize. So we're gonna recess till 11 o'clock. Okay. Next case, please, John.
Yes, sir. LEP 7, Renika Rogan requests a land use permit for the purpose of a personal care home, expanding 9 residents in land lot 1142 of the 19th District. The applicant is present, and there are 2 people here opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good morning. My name is Renika Rogan. I am with Caring for You Personal Care Home located in Mableton. I have been at this location for 8 years, been in the business for 10. I specialize with the elderly, different levels of care, Alzheimer's, dementia, strokes, as long as it's low level of care. I am also a resident of Cobb County, been in Cobb County all my life. So what am I posing today is I'm licensed for 3 residents, but I want to expand to add on 1 bedroom and 1 bath, and that will give me a total of 6 residents. Maybe if I can get a little small office in there, if everything goes correct, I can 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and 1 little small office. And I think that is it. If anyone have any questions? Don't want to hold anyone up.
No, that's all right. What we'll do is after we hear those in opposition, then we'll discuss the
Okay.
case, and we may call you back.
Okay.
All right?
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
good, thanks. So, okay, those in opposition, please.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cupid, and the rest of the commission. My name is Ray Thomas, and I live in Mableton, and I'm a member of the Mableton Improvement Coalition. Quite frankly, I'm going to make my comments brief this morning. We're not in opposition of LUP 7 as long as the conditions that were stipulated by the Planning Commission are adhered to. We've worked with Ms. Rogan, and certainly she has been a pleasure to deal with. And I think in our community, and particularly in our country, we all know that there's a need for affordable housing for seniors. And so I commend her for wanting to be a part of the solution. However, there are certain stipulations that we feel that should be adhered to in order to approve this request. And those stipulations include, one, that the number of residents be limited to, the facility be limited to 390 square feet per resident in the home, which is in accordance with the county standards. Number two, that she maintains the parking stipulations that were outlined by the Planning Commission. And number three, that the landscaping be done as she agreed to with the Planning Commission. And so that's all I have to offer this morning. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ray. I thought there were two people. Only one? Okay, all right. So this is yours, Commissioner Cupid.
Thank you, and I just want to, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you talk, and maybe my question will be answered.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to apologize to the speaker. We had a commissioner step out. They had a personal emergency, so I apologize. I did not get the latter half of the comments that you shared, but I do know that I've been in conversations with the applicant and with Mableton Improvement Coalition, and where you've been there also with the community discussing this application. So I'm hoping that my comments will reflect the spirit of what you shared. The applicant originally applied for 9 homes and wanted to increase the viability of her business. She's been operating in this community for a significant length of time with the same use. The community, when we all met, we were very supportive of the type of work that the applicant is doing, but there were some concerns about the quality of life that residents would have if they did not have the 390 square feet that was shared. So in working together with our with the planning commissioner, we came up with a compromise, and that's articulated in the planning commission comments and recommendations. So with that, the applicant, yes, isn't in agreement with it. So what I'd like to do is move to approve LUP 7 for 12 months, subject to the planning commission comments and recommendations and staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
A second? Okay, we have a second discussion.
One quick question. I'm not sure what 390 translates into, but I believe the application requested 9, and I believe the applicant stated 6. So I'm not sure, unclear how many residents there will be.
6.
Excuse me, the planning commission comments state there'll be a maximum of 6 residents.
Okay,
right.
Now, does that include a full-time, is there a full-time staff person in that 6? So it's staff person plus 5?
No, that's not what I'm.
Yeah, that just, because if you say 6 and she's planning on 7.
6 residents, though.
6 residents and 2 staff plus myself. Staff will have their own room.
So that's more than, that's if they're in the house, living there, they're a resident.
It's my understanding, you know, I didn't crunch the numbers myself after our second meeting, but we were all with our calculators. There's only 1 staff member there with the other residents who are there.
Right.
And so the way that the math was done, we came up with the maximum of 6 people living there in addition to the 1 staff person. And I believe that the second staff person relieves the first
Correct.
staff person.
1 week on and 1 week off.
And it's my understanding, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't recall, Ms. Rogan, that you don't live on the premises?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I do love them, but I don't live on the premises now.
I just think we have to be understanding about the 6 residents means the 1 week on, 1 week off.
That's for the staff.
They're living in the house though,
Correct, in their own room.
in a room, but the fact is there'll now be 7 people living in that house, not 6.
Okay, I mean, if that's how you want to put that.
I just want to make sure.
And it's
yeah.
not clear by the stipulation
Yeah.
because residents would mean somebody living there
Right.
versus.
Right.
Right.
How do you refer to then the persons that come under your care?
I'm caregiver.
Okay, so one care, okay. I just want to be clear.
Plus 6 residents.
One caregiver plus 6 residents.
John?
And thanks, Mr. Chairman. The way our code is written is caregivers are not counted as residents.
Okay, well,
It
there you are.
excludes those.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for letting me jump in the water and drown. I appreciate that, John.
That was
I'm
going to
here
be
now.
my
Good
next.
job.
Clarified this 5 minutes ago.
I'm now awake.
We all.
Thank
That's
you
okay.
later.
No. I was actually getting ready to say that because I mean, with the state, that's totally different. I know you have your own rules and regulations and policies too. But yeah, through the state, they're not considered a resident.
So,
Yeah.
so I didn't have 3 children. I had something else, right? They weren't residents in my home. Okay, so we're clear now. There's 6. We're good.
Okay.
Everything, we're back where we should have been 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? And we'll call the question. And it passes 4-0 with Commissioner Burrow being absent. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That completes your agenda, Mr. Chairman. We're done.
Okay, so with that, I call this
Nobody
meeting.
has.
Sorry?
We don't know what to do. Can we just sit here a while?
Is there anything else that you could, is there anything else you could do to change my words and re-advise me of? I'm calling this meeting to adjournment.